Inequality has become one of the most defining features of our modern world, and it continues to grow even though almost every country says it wants to reduce it. People talk about it constantly. Governments debate it. Economists measure it. News channels report it. Yet, despite all the attention, inequality never seems to shrink. It rises year after year, generation after generation, as if it has a life of its own. Many people wonder why. They ask if the system is broken, or if leaders simply do not care, or if the problem is too large to fix. The truth is more complicated, and also more honest. Inequality is not just a problem of policies or individual choices. It is a structural outcome of how modern economies work. For most of human history, people survived through labor. You worked with your hands or with your body, and you earned enough to live. Hard work could move you forward slowly, and your children could sometimes do a little better than you. This idea shaped the dreams of families for generations. A secure job, steady wages, effort, discipline, and patience were considered enough for a stable life. But today, something fundamental has changed. Labor no longer moves society the way it used to. The center of economic power has shifted from labor to capital. Capital behaves differently from labor. When you work, you exchange your time for money. When you own capital, the money you invested continues to grow even when you are not working at all. A person who owns assets can earn while sleeping. A person who only works for wages can work harder and harder, but still fall behind. This difference is not about intelligence or morality or determination. It is simply the difference between linear growth and compound growth. Wages grow slowly. Assets grow exponentially. Over time, even a small gap becomes enormous. This creates a divide that becomes stronger with each passing year. Two people can begin with similar talent and similar work ethic, yet their futures diverge dramatically depending on whether they own capital. If one person invests early, their wealth compounds over decades. If the other person never enters the asset world, their savings remain still or even shrink under inflation. This is how inequality becomes self-reinforcing. Once a person or a family begins with even a small advantage, the advantage multiplies. Once a person begins with a small disadvantage, that disadvantage deepens. Economists call this path dependence, but to ordinary people, it simply feels like the world is built to favor some groups over others. Many people assume that governments exist to correct this imbalance. In theory, that is true, but in practice, it almost never works. The first reason is that political systems move far more slowly than economic forces. Housing prices can rise in months, but housing reforms take years. Technology can erase entire job categories in a single year, but retraining programs take decades. Global capital can shift across borders instantly, but tax changes require long debates. The speed of inequality is fast. The speed of policy is slow. By the time a government responds, the problem has usually grown larger. Another reason is that politics naturally protects those who already have wealth. This is not usually the result of malicious intent. It is simply how influence works. People with more resources have more political power, more connections, more time to lobby, and more access to media. Policies that benefit the wealthy tend to pass easily. Policies that significantly redistribute wealth face enormous resistance. Even when governments sincerely want to reduce inequality, the political structure often prevents strong action. At best, governments provide partial solutions, temporary relief, but not structural change. Meanwhile, technology widens the gap further. Automation replaces physical jobs. AI replaces office jobs. Digital platforms concentrate profits in a few companies. High-skilled workers rise rapidly. Low-skilled workers face instability. Middle-skilled workers disappear. The result is a hollowed-out middle class and a society divided between those who can use technology to amplify their capital and those who can only sell labor in a shrinking market. Real estate adds another layer of inequality. Housing has become the main engine of wealth in many societies, but its price rises faster than wages. Older generations who bought property early enjoy immense gains. Younger generations feel locked out, unable to enter the market at all. Without real estate, they cannot join the asset economy, and the gap becomes generational. This creates frustration, anxiety, and a sense of unfairness. It also destabilizes the social contract that once promised that hard work would lead to a stable life. After understanding all of this, a difficult question arises. If inequality is built into the system, can it ever be fixed? The answer is that complete equality is impossible and perfect fairness is unrealistic. But a society does not need perfect equality to be healthy. What it needs is mobility, opportunity, and a sense that the future is not predetermined by the past. Fixing inequality is not about making everyone the same. It is about making sure that the gap is not so wide that it destroys hope. And here is where a different idea emerges. If the modern world is powered by capital, then the only lasting way to reduce inequality is to help everyone access capital. Not just the wealthy, not just large investors, not just corporations, everyone. This does not mean everyone must become rich. It means everyone must have the chance to become a small owner of assets. Becoming a small capitalist does not require extreme risk or advanced financial expertise. It means understanding how money grows. It means investing early, even small amounts. It means benefiting from compounding. It means building long-term security, not chasing quick profits. The difference between someone who invests consistently for decades and someone who never invests at all is one of the largest determinants of future well-being. And yet, most schools do not teach financial literacy. Most families do not talk about money. Most people remain outside the system that creates wealth. Some countries have already recognized this. Singapore uses a national fund to help citizens invest in housing and long-term assets. Norway invests its oil revenues in a sovereign fund that benefits all citizens. These systems are not perfect, but they demonstrate that when people share in capital growth, inequality becomes less destructive. A society where only a small elite owns assets will always feel divided and tense. A society where many people own assets, even tiny amounts, becomes more stable, more trusting, and more hopeful. Asset ownership gives people a sense of belonging in the economic future. It gives them security, confidence, and resilience. It gives them the feeling that they can shape their own life rather than being pushed around by forces they cannot control. The idea is simple, but powerful. The way to soften inequality is not only by raising wages or expanding welfare. It is by democratizing capital, by giving people the tools, education, and systems to participate in the long-term growth of the economy. Even small participation matters. A person who invests $20 a month for 20 years will experience more financial stability than someone who saves nothing. The goal is not to create a world of millionaires. It is to create a world where economic growth belongs to everyone, not just a small group. Inequality will never fully disappear, but it does not need to destroy societies. The future will always be uncertain, but people can face uncertainty with strength when they have assets to support them. A person who owns something, even something small, feels rooted in the future. A society where most people feel rooted in the future is healthier than one where people feel excluded from it. In this sense, helping everyone become a small capitalist is not just an economic idea. It is a social idea. It is a psychological idea. It is a cultural idea. It is a way to restore trust in a world that often feels unfair. A better future will not come from waiting for perfect policies or perfect leaders. It will come from building systems that give ordinary people a share in the growth of their society. It will come from financial education, accessible investment tools, low-cost index funds, automatic saving systems, and a culture that encourages long-term thinking rather than short-term fear. When people understand capital and have access to it, inequality becomes less painful and less permanent. We may not be able to build a perfectly equal world, but we can build a world where more people have a real chance to rise, where the future feels open rather than closed, and where opportunity does not depend entirely on the family you are born into. A world where everyone, not just a few, can share in the growth of the society they help create. And perhaps that is the most realistic and most human way to face the challenge of inequality.